All right, good evening and welcome
Hey,
to Science
um,
Flixtion. Hope you guys are having a good evening. Salim, how are you doing over there?
I'm good. How are you, Carl?
I'm enjoying the evening. It's gotten kind of cold. All of a sudden, I realized how much it's gotten a little chillier. But we've been spoiled lately, I guess, with the weather. So whatever.
No, yeah, it's been weird. It's like 50 the other day, and it just kind of like it's out of nowhere, just warmer weather. It's bizarre to say the least. But yeah, outside of that, has been pretty steady. I have been. I think. Did I tell you? I don't know if I told you, but I started rewatching um the DC animated movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in general, like from the start, ones that are not necessarily because there's like a newer, uh, like timeline thing they started that started with the Flashpoint paradox. Um, but then I started, I watched a few other ones before, and now I'm starting with that. They had like a bunch of them in that timeline and voiced by like the same people. I like to do over and over randomly. One of those things. How's your Spider-Man, Spider Girl stuff going?
Spider Woman, actually. I think I'm halfway
Oh, Spider
through.
Woman. Sorry,
Yeah,
my bad.
yeah, I think I'm halfway through the series. It's been getting progressively worse. um, yeah, what was today? What was I had a big issue today. It was oh yeah, so they're in space, right? So it is basically like SpaceX. They were taking civilians into space. So Jessica and her coworker slash guy that is hitting on her constantly, trying to date her, and her nephew that is always around her job and whatever. They're that's like the whole group is her, him, and the little boy. So they are able to go onto space because there's the villain's called Steeljaw. He guess what his ability is. Um, but I don't even remember the plot of because it was such not a really an interesting episode. But they are in space, and they're on like the classic space shuttle, and they fly it like a plane. It even lands on the moon like with the wheels down, just like as a regular airplane or whatever. And all of these civilians are in the space shuttle with like no spacesuits or anything like that. And then it's like, okay, now we're finally on the moon. Time to put your spacesuits on. uh, uh, they end up all getting out. They have the spacesuits, and then something happens where like Steeljaw is like, "Oh, I brought you all here so you can work, so we can mine all of the resources on the moon." And the moon is just like within like a day. There's like a excavation site, like a full-on excavation site in the moon, and all of these regular people are just digging in the moon, finding like gems and rubies and shit. I'm like, what? And then they eventually get to the point where Jessica has to sneak away and turn into Spider Woman. So she's in her space suit with the glass dome, and then she spins around because that's how she does like Wonder Woman spin. She spins around and changes to Spider Woman. The suit is gone. Right, she's back. She's in her Spider Woman suit with just the glass dome, and that's it. Like, there's nothing else that she's wearing. It's just her Spider Woman suit, and I'm like, isn't she in space? Like, she would probably like freeze to death. Like, couldn't you have just at least
Science,
drawn the space suit on her? She was already wearing it. You didn't have to put her Spider Woman suit on, like whatever. But yeah, it's
science has no place in that show. Uh,
oh the
even
best.
even more so than your average comic book because it's bizarre.
Oh yeah, the best part was they were trying to run away, and there's like, oh, what do we do? There's nowhere else to go. Look over there. It's the Land Rover. So it's just like the random like Land Rover from, because in this was like 1979. So just like a random Land Rover that the astronauts just left behind on the moon is just sitting there, and they're just like, okay, let's go. And then they get on it and it doesn't start. Well, duh, it doesn't start. It's been sitting here for like 9 years. Of course, it doesn't have any batteries. So Jessica Drew, she's like, oh well, let me sneak in Venom Blast the battery so I can get a nice little charge. Then he starts it up and then you like take off like like, all right, sure.
Oh, that's bizarre. Anyways, that's
Mhm.
these old 70s, 80s cartoons are exactly what you expect. Just
Yep,
absolute nuttiness.
I love them.
But yeah, we have a good show today. We have just one fast flick, but we're after that we're gonna get into our top three, or each of our top three movies. That technically, like it just uh, they're technically not necessarily 100% our top three, but just we want to talk about these movies where we each of us just stood out as far as the sci-fi side is concerned, and then also on the television side, our three most or three of our individually our favorite shows, if you will, as well, and kind of in the same realm, not necessarily our favorites, but like just in general shows that really stuck with us for the year of 2022. Um, First, let's start with our fast flick. So, Carl, if you want to go ahead and play our little fast flick video. Alrighty. So our first or our only fast flick was I saw it the other day. I don't know if you knew this, Carl, but uh this it was talking about Secret Invasion, and how that's gonna essentially set up the stage for the upcoming Star Wars movie or Armor Wars movie. Um, First off, thing was surprising to me is that Armor Wars is not going to be a show anymore. It's going to be a movie instead. They're turning that into a big screen affair, which was kind of surprising to me. I guess they want to maybe do. I don't know if this is supposed to be kind of like a Iron Man 4 in a sense, but that was a surprising factor to me. And Don Cheadle was talking about basically about Secret Wars, and he's like, there's a couple of quotes here from him. So the first quote is like, "It's bananas. It's very expensive, and obviously now that everyone can show up in everybody else's story. I mean, I'm in Secret Invasion, so I'm in Sam Jackson's show. There's part of that, and it kicks off what happens in Armor War. That kicks off what happens in Armor Wars." And then he says, "So yeah, it can go on and on, and hopefully it doesn't get spread too thin. There's still some quality control and that's trying to expand for expansion sakes, but there's a clear idea about the storytelling and what you're trying to accomplish with every iteration." So I guess he's just talking about how, obviously, not only with Marvel and Cinematic Universe, where characters are interacting, interchanging with each other, but he's talking about how Armor or Secret Invasions is going to eventually, or it's going to lead into Armor Wars, or something that's going to happen in Secret Invasion is going to lead into Armor Wars. Uh, what were your thoughts on that? Like when you saw that, it was interesting to me seeing that because, like I said, the fact that it's not going to be a TV show anymore is surprising in itself. But
We actually talked about this before.
did we? I don't
Mhm.
remember that.
Yeah, this it's been news for a little while that it was converting over. I think that was since like September, maybe. So, but yeah, we definitely talked
Really?
about that part of it. But yes, it was a originally Armor Wars was originally supposed to be a Disney Plus show. Yeah, because remember back at D23, we were wondering where was Armor Wars? Why wasn't it on the Phase 5 schedule? or phase 6 because it just wasn't they didn't talk about it at all. And then shortly afterward, um, is when the news came out that they were going to convert it over into a movie. But yeah, it is that, and then also, um, with Secret Invasion dropping relatively soon. I don't even remember if we have a date on that just yet. It doesn't show that on here, so I don't think we still don't have a date on it, but it's supposed to be this month, I think. But it's supposed to lead directly into Armor Wars some kind of way because I'm looking forward to it. Like, I think there's not really a whole lot of Marvel content going on Disney Plus this year. I think it said it's like three shows, which would be
I
this.
do think Yeah, I do think they also are trying to clean up phase 5 and 6 a little bit, like, I don't know what they because I guess there were a lot of people as far as the quantity of phase 4 and well, not only in quantity, but the quality. I guess there was a lot of complaints about it. Obviously there was things in phase 4 that were good, but there was a lot of stuff that was just kind of maybe they had it watered down a little bit, made it watered down a little bit. So I'm wondering, um, because I mean, sorry, that there's rumors at that point where if they want to kind of revisit phase 5 and 6 and make it a little bit more, not necessarily less in quantity, but just the quality better. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects that because obviously with this TV shows that they do, maybe they'll readjust the size of the episodes. Like instead of having like 9 episodes, or they'll do like five, things like that. Maybe it'll be interesting to see what those rumors really meant as far as them being like, okay, well, we're going to revisit the slate and what we do with that. Um, but yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see when it's kind of surprising that we don't know exactly when Secret Invasion is coming out, just because it's like it's kind of crazy that we don't know yet, and it's supposed to be this month.
Yeah, like, yeah, I would think that we would have a date like within the next week, but yeah, apparently not, because if it was coming this week, we would know. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
and
looking
then
forward to it, but there's not a whole lot. There's Secret Invasion, there's What If
and
season
man,
2, and then talking with Disney Plus specifically,
uh,
Loki season 2, Disney What If season 2, and then Secret Invasion. I don't think there's
the
anything
funny
else
thing
hitting.
well, the funny thing is, like, you would think that they would really start gearing towards advertising about Secret Invasion if that's supposed to come out before Ant-Man, and but Ant-Man has been kind of the focus for the
Right.
last, I would say, 3 months, right?
Hmm.
That's been interesting too in a sense because if you're gonna have you would think that the next thing that's coming out would be what you're trying to advertise towards and really push so people know, hey, this is when this is coming out, so I need to be ready the week of the 20th, January 20th, that week on Wednesday, this is gonna drop. I want to watch it because if people don't know it's coming out and they're not aware, like that could affect ratings of the first week.
Hmm.
So um that's just it's interesting why there's being no pun intended secretive about the release of the show. And like I said, Ant-Man Quantumania uh comes out next month in February, and like I said, they've been releasing more and more stuff. Like they're getting people really hyped up about King the Conqueror. There's been like more scenes with him, and everyone's like another villain that people are more excited about than the hero itself. But
I
yeah,
think
it's
maybe we
kind of
assumed
insane.
maybe because I can't quite remember why we thought it was January, but maybe we assumed that, like, maybe they said winter 2023 and we assumed January because Ant-Man was coming out in February, so we
Yeah, that's
assumed it
true.
was coming out before Ant-Man, because technically winter 2023 would still be
Oh,
like
wasn't
end
that
of
timeline?
February, or maybe, yeah, maybe the timeline had it ahead of it. Yeah, it could have been that too. But if it's supposed to have it's been winter, that could have been after Ant-Man too. But yeah, either way, if it gets delayed after Ant-Man, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And like I said, they
Sure.
don't have a whole lot of things coming up on Disney Plus for the year, so maybe they reevaluated its placement just so that there's a little bit more. Because like after Ant-Man, if Secret Invasion would have come out now and then Ant-Man drops in February, there would be nothing until summertime, until what,
Oh,
May?
they must have pushed it because now uh I'm looking at this new timeline. It says spring 2023.
Mm.
So they must have pushed it. I can't remember if I ever remember them doing that, or meant when they would have mentioned that. Let me see something here. When was this posted?
But yeah, like yeah, if it's coming out in spring, yeah, that makes more sense. Like I said, they don't have a whole lot going on up until May when is that Guardians? Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy comes out in May. So there would be nothing going on if it came out now. So pushing it until March or April would make a little bit more sense just to have something going on with Marvel. Because yeah, we just finished watching, some other stuff. What was She-Hulk and darn it, stuff's already flown out of my head. Um, but yeah, like it just makes a little bit more sense now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, definitely. So it will be interesting to see what happens with all these, with their phase five and what they mean by quality and all that stuff. I won't say anything about the new Ant-Man trailer because I know you haven't watched it, so I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, let's get into our regular show. We are going to talk about our most memorable shows and movies, sci-fi related movies at least, and shows. What I was thinking with the way we'll do this, so like we'll start off with shows. Do you want to start off with shows first? And then what we could do is go take turns as for instead of like just us talking. Like so we'll do one show and then you do a show, I do a show, and back and forth like that.
Sure.
Um and then with the movies. So I'll let you go first. I don't did you want to do like an order, like number three to one, or you pick however you want to go in order?
Um, I'll just go ahead and start. So the we're doing TV shows first, and like I said, I didn't want to have the same stuff that Salim had. But actually, for what it's worth, between Salim and I, we have similar tastes in movies, and as far as similar ranking in movies and stuff. But as far as TV shows go, we're kind of different. So what he has is not something at all. I don't even watch what he has on his list. But we did both watch my favorite TV show of 2022, and that was Sandman. We both watched Sandman, so by far that was what I felt was the best sci-fi thing that I watched. I'm not gonna say it's absolutely the best because again, I haven't watched what even Celine has watched. There's other shows out there that I haven't watched, but of the things that I've watched this year, that's considered television. I thought Sandman was one of the best, if not the best thing. I was really um, excited to see it, and it was every episode was really interesting. I love the visual effects of the show. I love that Neil Gaiman was like directly who created the Sandman comic book series, was directly involved with the production of the show. So he made sure that his baby was being adapted correctly. Because we all know, like sometimes these things, especially with Netflix, when they do the adaptations, they usually are not very good. I would say almost every adaptation that Netflix has had has been pretty bad, but this one was one of those that was actually stand out, and it was really really good. They had a lot of different characters coming in and out. The Sandman himself was a really cool character and had a lot of great backstory, and I really hope that we do get more of this in the future because I believe there's more stories that could be told in this universe, more stories to be adapted from the comics. But for me, this was absolutely the best show.
Yeah, I enjoyed that show too. I just had other shows that I enjoyed more. That was like that was definitely a really good show, especially because Netflix tends to botch those. So it was pleasantly surprising that they actually did really well. And like you said, the writer and creator being involved probably definitely helped them not botching the entire series. So it was definitely a good show. And if anyone hasn't watched that, we would recommend it. Check it out on Netflix if you get a chance. So I'll go next. So my favorite show, it's on Amazon Prime. It's definitely my favorite show in general, not even just sci-fi really. And I guess I'm biased because I mostly watch sci-fi, fantasy, comic book related shows, but The Boys is my favorite show in general. And the season 3 of The Boys was just fantastic. Continuation of Homelander, just one of the most uh one of the best villains in comic book history. Um the complexity of the Billy Butcher, um the story like see like season 1 and 2 are pretty crazy, and then season 3 gets even crazier. There's just even more, like, things that they push the boundaries of how far they wanna go as far as really, making you, like, shock value, I guess, if you will. Um, they added one of my favorite, I'm a big Supernatural fan, and so the writer of the show, Eric Kripke, he wrote Supernatural. He was the creator of Supernatural, and he's the I think he's the executive, I'm pretty sure executive producer of this show. And he basically he's has a lot of he has like supernatural Easter eggs in here too, but throughout this series. But he has characters that he had on Supernatural, or actors that he had on Supernatural, go on to this show as well. And one of my favorite, like, he's generally been a TV actor, but now he's kind of, I mean, he's still for the most part, I think, on TV. I think he had one movie recently, but it got scrapped because there was some on sets. It was that Rust, I think, or was it Rust? I can't remember. But that Alec Baldwin movie, remember where they had the accident on set where Alec Baldwin shot and killed
Yeah. Hmm.
somebody. So he was supposed to be, and the person I'm talking about is Jensen Ackles. He played Dean Winchester on Supernatural, but he was supposed to be in that movie, but that movie got scrapped because of that situation that happened. But yeah, he's like one of my favorite TV actors. Like us again, Supernatural. I'm a huge Supernatural fan, so like I definitely have like a bias towards him. As like just being a big fan of him and his acting. He was added to season 3. And there's other characters. There's like one of um, a couple other characters of Supernatural that have been in this show. But yeah, this it was just really fun. It's a fun show, and I was like I'm a big, you know me, I'm a big comic book guy. Um, but I love that this really makes fun of comic books. Essentially, this comic book itself makes fun of comic like Marvel and DC, like the concept of obviously people with superpowers all being these altruistic good people. In reality, they would all be dick bags. Like, one of my favorite lines from season 3 is like it's a Spider-Man thing, right? Like in Spider-Man is like um, with great power comes great responsibility. Billy Butcher says, with great power comes to fact, or he says, with great power comes that you'll be a trite cunt or something like that. Like he says something of that verbatim, not verbatim, but something in that realm. So it kind of sets the, again, takes a thing from Marvel to poke fun at Marvel and kind of addresses the what this theme of the show is. So yeah, that to me, like it's one of it's my favorite show, and that would be. I mean, I guess I would put that at number one for myself.
Alrighty. So yeah, as far as the boys go, it probably would be a show I would watch if I had Amazon Prime, which I don't. So that's why I don't have it anything to add to it. I've never seen anything. But if I ever get Amazon Prime or if it becomes available anywhere else, I would definitely check it out. What I did get and I do have is HBO Max, um, which I don't subscribe to things yearly. Like I'll just get in there for whatever I want to see and dip out. And one of those things was Harley Quinn season 3. This this summer dropped, and I was super excited for that because Harley Quinn is like my favorite show in general, just like my favorite ongoing show. For the last couple of years. So I was super excited for season 3. It didn't disappoint. They're already working on season 4. As long as James Gunn and everyone else at DC doesn't decide to axe it at the last minute or do something to cause it to go to a different network or something like that. But what's going on, Matthew? Uh, yeah, I still very much loved season 3. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's like my second favorite show of the year. Not that I remember a whole lot, but obviously it was definitely the season of Harley and Ivy being together. First season they were just friends. Second season, Ivy was getting married, and then they ended up breaking that up at the end to get with Harley at the end of season 2. So season 3, they were a full on relationship, but they had their issues, they had their problems. They didn't fully gel together for every single episode, and that's just kind of what the whole season was really about. But it was still totally a ton of fun. Um, a riot, and I do highly recommend it to anyone. Just because it's animated doesn't mean it's bad, or it's not for there's totally animated stuff for adults, and this would be one of those. There's lots of violence and fighting and killing. In fact, like half of the villains are dead already. I think. Let's see, Mr. Freeze is dead. Penguin's dead. I think Harley killed Penguin, and then Mr. Freeze sacrificed himself. Um, Several other villains. What happened to the Riddler? Is he still alive? I'm not sure. I can't remember. But yeah, there's quite a few of them in there. So I do highly recommend it. I can't wait for season 4. It's probably dropping this year, probably again over the summer. But we'll see.
Yeah, like you, I have not. So like you didn't watch War of the Boys. I have. I actually just recently subscribed to HBO Max. Um, but I have not watched the Harley Quinn show yet. But I probably will check it out. Now, if maybe I've seen it. So is this the same as the other Harley Quinn? Like I remember there was a season 1 of Harley Quinn where in that first season they show her obviously breaking up with the Joker, and then she creates like she becomes really good friends with best friends with Poison Ivy, and they show like the Justice League as kind of being like douchey in a sense. um and it's kind of like uh they're basically going and like I remember the final episode is where Harley Quinn and like Poison Ivy and a couple of other like villains, if you will, of DC are like the ones that end up saving the world essentially. Like is that was that a different
It's
show, or is that the
probably
same
the
one?
same one, yeah. Dr. Psycho, or yeah, Dr. Psycho and Clayface and King Shark.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe I saw season one, which was good, but I didn't watch any more seasons after that, just because I didn't. I think I just like my. I think my friend downloaded the season, but I just for some reason I think I just lost track of it. So maybe I'll go back and watch that. But so my second favorite, if you will, I'll go with was Stranger Things. That's on Netflix. I know, Carl, you only seen season one, but this is a season four of Stranger Things, and yeah, I thought it was really good because like when we talked about this show back when it came out, I think it was like July, I believe. Um, it was funny, like the first three seasons have a completely different theme. It's more driven towards a younger audience, like not necessarily that older audience can't enjoy it too, but it's like it's more like more of like a family sit together show. And but season four takes a much darker, even darker, more darker than the first three season turns, and they kind of really switch up the theme uh of the feel and the theme and everything of the show. It's a lot of like the 80s, a lot of like the 80s horror movies, like A Nightmare on Elm Street, and stuff like that. Um, they take stuff from that and really that what they incorporate in this season, and I thought they did really well as far as incorporating that. I thought it was a fun season for me. Had more uh exciting, like it was interesting the way they told the story and everything like that. So to me, this was my second favorite show of 2022. And I was actually surprised that they ended up having a cliffhanger again. So because they did a two-parter, they released part one for like the first, I want to say 7 or 8 episodes, or it might have been 7 episodes, and they did two more episodes of part two, and then part two had a cliffhanger. So I thought this was going to be the last season, like it was the season series finale, but they're going to have a season five, and it's going to be the same villain as this season. Um, but it's going to be interesting, like I said, how they wrap that up. But yeah, and I really enjoyed it, and to me, like I said, it was like probably my second favorite show, sci-fi show of the year.
Alrighty. And then yeah, like you said, I've only watched season one, so it's another one of those shows that I haven't watched. But yeah, actually, I kind of struggled this compiling my list for even just three for top TV shows, because I almost didn't put Harley on there because we never really talked about Harley. I do mention it from time to time, but I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let me put it on the list because it is legitimately one, a show that I watched this year, and two, I really legitimately like it. But to figure out what that third one was, I was like, what the heck did I actually watch this year that's television? Because I don't watch TV. I watch pretty much streaming everything, and I really don't watch television shows. Like, I'm an anime person, so I usually watch a lot of anime. And then as far as sci-fi stuff, not a lot really catches my attention. But I had to kind of decide what that third one was, and we've watched, all of the Disney Plus stuff, and we watched a couple of other things. Um, one which one of the things that you're going to cover after this, but even then, I wouldn't have considered it better than personally She-Hulk. I think She-Hulk was a little bit better. So I'm glad you're picking that other thing anyway. But it was did I wanted to pick She-Hulk or Moon Knight, and that was kind of my debate, because those are the only other TV shows that I watched. So I had to pick one of those two, and between the two, She-Hulk had more episodes. It was more of my speed, even though I liked Moon Knight quite a bit. Um, I like the mix of action and comedy where Moon Knight was more of the it didn't actually have a lot of action. Again, there was like a whole episode there where he never even turned into Moon Knight, right? Maybe two episodes where he never even turned into Moon Knight. Where She-Hulk had a whole lot of other things going on, especially all the fourth wall breaking, which was really fun. I haven't seen that in a couple years since Deadpool, but just being able to embrace that. But I do like to just to touch on what your quality control comments were before, because I know you don't think of this show as highly as I do, as well as other people on the internet. But I think one of the things that because I don't think they're going to cut like content so much, but as far as what was interesting when I was looking into like there, especially in this process, this show with the fourth wall breaking and all of this stuff, is how kind of free and loose the writers were allowed to be with She-Hulk, and how free and loose with the writing material, the whole the Kevin bot and all that stuff. It's fun. Um, and I like all of these different takes and taking chances and stuff like that. But like I say, free and loose, I think they're just kind of gonna bring it reining in a little bit more going forward with the future shows and future movies and stuff, because between Thor, Love and Thunder, and this show, and Miss Marvel, and even Moon Knight to a certain extent. Not everyone was like on board with Moon Knight because they just didn't get the whole multiple personality thing. I think that's kind of what this year was for Marvel movie and TV. Is just a lot of it wasn't so much that everyone was being pleased. It's more like this group is getting what they want, but this group is not, and then this group is getting something but this other group is not. And I think that's kind of where the future of Marvel is headed, where they're just like they trying to appease all these groups, but it's leaving all of these other groups like feeling like, oh, this isn't for me, which I think is fine. But unfortunately, everyone kind of needs to voice their opinion, and they think that everything needs to be for them with specifically Marvel content, because I can't explain that, but that's just that's my opinion. I think everyone wants to be pleased by everything they see coming from Marvel, and not just appeasing to certain groups. That's just how I feel. But regardless, I think She-Hulk was still a really good show. I liked it a little bit more than Moon Knight, and between the two, there really wasn't much else for me to pick, so I had to throw in She-Hulk there.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed She-Hulk. I don't know. I never said that I didn't like it.
I
So,
didn't say you didn't like it. I
um,
said you didn't like it as much as I did.
I mean, that's I guess that's relative. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed She-Hulk. And as far as the quality stuff, I just that rumor I read, so it'll be interesting to see what happens if that's even real. Like it could just be completely fabrication by somebody who doesn't want, who doesn't like the direction of what MCU is doing, and they could have just made up a baseless rumor and they're trying to run with it because no one's um, like you haven't heard like Kevin Feige comment on that or anything like that. So or even
Well,
like
he
the
wouldn't.
president of this. Correct, but I'm just saying they're not talking about. No one's out of MCU has talked about anything of them changing anything for say phase 5 and 6, like a different direction. We have that just like I said, it was just a random rumor that somebody made up. So could be a random rumor stuff, but we don't know. But yeah, so my last show I'll go with is I really enjoyed it. Like, and I guess what it was probably more so like I really enjoyed it maybe because my expectations going into this show weren't like super like not high, I should say, but I didn't really have a lot of expectations. I was just surprised that they were making it a show. Um, 'Cause not that I didn't like the character in from Suicide Squad, but um, it was just kind of surprising that they were making an entire series out of this character. But it was Peacemaker, and I ended up really enjoying it. Like like I said, maybe it was because expectations were not as great for other things, and that made me like it more, because like I was like maybe pleasantly surprised. But I really ended up enjoying it. Like I liked the the entire storyline. I liked the character development. It was, a good mix of comedy and the action. I loved the little twist with Vigilante. I loved his John Cena or Peacemaker's little pet sidekick Eagly. It was really funny. Um, I really enjoyed John Cena in here too. He was surprised me as far as the way he was able to act because you know, coming from a wrestling background, you gotta get those kind of actors, get typecasted. And obviously, we've talked about Dave Batista, who's gone out of his way to do more rangy roles. Like he's not trying to be just this action hero. Like when I'm talking about Dave Batista, and it seems like John Cena is trying to. Obviously, this is an action movie or show, but he's trying to go for more roles where he can actually act and do show various side emotions and try to play different characters as being like, you know, like and no and Rock, but that's what the Rock generally tends to be is just all different roles. It's the Rock. It works for him for the most part. Like I said, he's a big budget movie guy. Um, Obviously the what do you call it? Black Adam didn't do as well, but I think I have other theories as why that didn't do as well. I think DC's gotten to a point where if critics absolutely trash a DC movie, uh, the audience is not going to give it the benefit of doubt anymore, and I think that affects then ends up affecting the box office stuff. But getting back to the Peacemaker, like because of John Cena, he to me he was just absolutely really good in this entire series, and like I love the way they developed this character. Like he's the beginning of the show, he's not a good guy, but then they show that he's a lot more complex than what you think he is, and then you kind of they go into his relationship with his father and how his childhood upbringing really um, affected who he became as an adult, and slowly building him up to be more of the good guy as opposed to just being this villain that everyone thinks he is. So it was like I said, I just really enjoyed the show. I ended up really enjoying the show, and whether, like I said again, it was because my expectations weren't like really having expectations when I started the show. I don't know if that factored into it, but yeah, that's my third show of 2022, sci-fi comic book show of 2022.
Right,
Um,
yeah, and,
yeah,
I liked Peacemaker just fine. If you had asked me 2 or 3 years ago, do I think Peacemaker would make a good TV show, or does that character deserve a TV show? I would just say, "Who's Peacemaker?" Because
mhm,
I didn't know who that was a couple years ago. So I would say no. There's many other DC characters that would make a better TV show than Peacemaker. But given that fact, it wasn't a half bad show. That said, it didn't grab me enough for me to be a super like fan of it, or to be super excited talking about it, or anything in particular about it wasn't like super cool to me. But I would watch a season two if there was one. So I would continue watching because I do like John Cena in general, and I like James Gunn and his direction in general. So I don't know what they planning on doing with this character, but I liked enough that I would keep on going with it. But like I said, I didn't like it more than She-Hulk, and so again, that's why I'm glad, in the very least, that you had it on your list because I wouldn't have had it on my list. But I think it was worth mentioning, in
yeah.
general.
I was
So
thinking, I was thinking about Moon Knight, putting Moon Knight in here. instead of Peacemaker. It was close, but I went with Peacemaker just because. Yeah. All right, let's
Alrighty.
get into the movie side. If you want to go ahead and go first.
Yeah, so as far as movies go, I'll just go ahead and say this. So again, we've already said this at the beginning of the show. This isn't although is our top movies and top shows of 2022, my list I want it to be different just to have the opportunity to talk a little bit more about different movies. Um, but if I were to make my own list, my list would be Salim's list. I had him pick first, and he picked the movies that I would have picked. So I picked other movies that he didn't pick just for the sake of talking about the other movies. So that being said, my first movie, which is I wouldn't necessarily say it's number one, but it's just number one because again, some Salim's list is got that there. But Prey is worth talking about. I think it was a really great movie for 2022. An unexpected um, good movie, especially since it hit Hulu exclusively. It was streaming only, never in theaters. Definitely a movie that should have been in theaters, and I still like question as to why they didn't want to put this on a big screen because it would have been really cool to see this in a movie theater. But really great characters, great visuals, a new Predator, and it looks really cool. Um, yeah, it's just a really dang good movie. It told a really great story. Not a whole lot to say, but it just adds more to the Predator lore, and they can do so much more with predators, like going through time, like having a predator, like I don't know, in Egypt or having a predator in Japan or doing something, and they can just make movies like that going forward, and especially if like futuristic predators are a little bit more risky to do because of more recent movies and more recent attempts, but in the very least, this one was really handled very well. I enjoyed it very much. How about you, Celine?
Yeah, so Prey. Well, I'm glad you picked Prey, because I was really thinking about putting that in mine, as opposed to the ones that I went with, instead of one of the ones that I went with. Um, but yeah, that was a really enjoyable movie. Like it was, it was shorter. It was too short for me. Like I, not
Yeah, definitely.
short. I wish it was a little longer, but I really enjoy uh the lead actress, was Thunder, um,
Amy Mid Thunder.
Amy
I
Mid
don't know
Thunder.
if it's
That's right.
Amy, but it's Mid Thunder is the last name.
Yeah, Mid Thunder. She was excellent in that movie. Like a lot of the scenes is basically her acting by herself, um, and it's just kind of really awesome the way she carried that movie. Um, yeah, so that was definitely a good movie, and I'm glad you picked it. So the my favorite movie, and this is again, I know I'm a big sci-fi guy, but this is probably my favorite movie in general of 2022, and it's probably gonna be a movie that I rewatch so many times. But everything, everywhere, all at once, like absolutely, like fantastic movie. They absolutely nailed the multiverse, even better than Doctor Strange, which I like Doctor Strange, and I'm not gonna get too much into that, but I like that movie. But I feel like they did it better with the multiverse. Michelle Yao was fantastic. The return of Ki Hu Kwan, Stephanie Sao was also in this movie, and I think we had talked about this movie originally when both of you and I watched it and reviewed it. Like Stephanie Sao, like I had mostly seen her in very small roles, like a very side character. Like she's in what do you call it? Sung Chi. She plays like that this the when they're sitting at the restaurant with their friend,
Mhm.
the lawyer. That's her, and it's kind of crazy, because like I said, I've only seen her mostly in, and not to say she doesn't have bigger roles because I haven't seen everything she's in, but most of the stuff I've seen is small stuff like that, And watching her in this movie, the range she showed as an actress is like, oh my god, man, she's fucking awesome. Obviously, the relationship between the entire movie is really based around uh, Michelle Yao, Evelyn, and Stephanie Sao. J- uh, Jobu, so she's Jobu to and her character. I forget what her daughter's name is. I can't remember off the top of my head. God damn stupid. IMDb's not loading for me. Um, but yeah, so she the relationship between them and how it basically affected the multiverse, their relationship, and throughout the movie that they're showing the complexity of these characters and how they're how, like I said, their relationship is affecting the multiverse. Yeah, so Joy Wang is Stephanie Sao's character. But yeah, so all that put together, like I said, was an absolutely fantastic movie for me. And Carl, did you know? Apparently, for I'm glad they didn't do it, but there was the rumor was that they originally wanted Jackie Chan to play Michelle Yao's character, like, but it was a male instead of a
Oh,
female.
okay. Hmm.
Yeah, that's
That would
insane.
have been interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad they went with Michelle Yeoh because I thought she was awesome in this, and um, like I said, I'm glad that they didn't. You know, it's always one of those things when you find out after the fact that a certain actor was supposed to originally be the role, but that they turned it down or just couldn't work out with them, so they went with someone else. And it's like, man, yeah, I can't see this person in this movie. Like the most famous one I think about is The Matrix with Keanu Reeves, but like Will Smith was originally approached about being in the Matrix. It doesn't work for me. I can't imagine Will Smith as Neo. I just can't. It's weird for me to see him being that character. And I think they got it right that they went with Keanu Reeves. And maybe obviously things would be different if we never have Keanu Reeves image as Neo and it was always Will Smith. Maybe that changes it, but yeah, I'm glad they went with what they did, and like I said, everything everywhere all at once is just absolutely fantastic. And like I said, favorite movie in general for me, and it's going to be a movie that I rewatch like multiple times. Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, I fully agree with Salim. That is my favorite movie as well of 2022 for sure. Well, I would say that, but also your second movie, like I said, my list is your list. I would consider flip flopping them, but at the
yeah,
same time, I'm totally fine with everywhere, everything everywhere, being number one. Um, I can go back and forth on your number one and number two, but for my list again, just to have some extra stuff to talk about and to be a little different, I'm gonna go with the other multiverse movie that wasn't as good as Everything Everywhere All at Once. That is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So I was like, what movies do I really want to pick? Because I was close. So like I'll get into it a little bit later about the ones that are just like right at the cuff of being cut like right cut off. But I went with this because at the end of the day, like one of the ways I rank things is what I if I had to pick which one I would watch again, especially between all the other choices of movies this year, I would rather watch Multiverse of Madness again over watching some of the other movies that again I'll talk about shortly. But yeah, I still very much like this movie. Um, I liked it more than Thor: Love and Thunder, which I still like, but I would prefer this one. And as far as other Marvel movies this year, there's only one other Marvel movie that I liked more than this, which Celine will be talking about shortly. But that's it. There wasn't a whole lot of praise going on for Marvel movies this year, which is it is what it is. But despite that. And despite this movie's flaws, which it definitely has those, I really enjoyed seeing all of the Illuminati and seeing all of the Sam Raimi stuff in the art direction and the movie direction and everything like that. The future possibilities, the cliffhanger with Clea and uh, coming in with Charlie Theron and so on. There's just a lot of things just to really enjoy about this movie. A lot of things to criticize too, like I said, the multiverse stuff was done definitely better in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I really didn't like that we in Doctor Strange they did like a little montage of him going through different multiverses, but he never stayed in any of them for any long period of time, except for the one that had the Illuminati, and that's where most of the movie occurred. So I felt that it would have been better if he hopped around a little bit more and dipped like shorter time periods, but still spending some decent time in multiple universes and learning things about how the multiverse works. But other small criticisms aside, I still really enjoyed Scarlet Witch. Really enjoyed Doctor Strange. The visual effects were really good in this movie. The music was really good. Um, yeah, it was a really great movie to me. So I put it at number two.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought, I was surprised at the really mixed reviews it got. Like I thought it was a good movie. I thought I thought maybe the mixed reviews were because of the fact that you have to watch WandaVision before you watch this to kind of understand a lot of what's going on. Because that's a big part of like why she does like what she is in that movie, why she's like the villain, Scarlet Witch that is. Um, but yeah, like I said, it was a very fun movie. It's going to be interesting to see how they continue on with the multiverse because obviously that's going to be a big part of Phase 5 and 6 somehow. I'd imagine, especially with King coming and all that stuff. So will be interesting for sure. Um, my second movie, and like you, it was close. Like I was trying to see if flip flop it, but I ended up going with Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Like I said, I get there was parts of this movie that were predictable. Um, and it's super long, but like the length of it was necessary just because they had to deal with obviously Chadwick Boseman's passing, and I thought they did it very respectfully, and they did a really great job with it. They didn't dishonor his who he is in real life. Like they incorporated that into this movie, what happened in real life and how important and loved he was in real life. That you can tell throughout uh, the entire movie and the complexity of all these feelings that all the characters have about his passing. Obviously, you see, one of the questions that we had, you and I both had about this going into this movie is like, man, they're picking Shuri to be the next Black Panther, but we don't really know a lot about Shuri. As like we know, a little bit about her, but in the MCU, she's mostly been a very small side character, just like T'Challa's goofy little sister that's super smart. She doesn't really have much more depth than that, but they really gave her depth. They built her character in this movie and who she is and what makes her tick and the complexity of her character, like the emotions she's going through with dealing with T'Challa's passing and dealing with her beliefs of science versus what like the Wakandans believe about like the spiritual realm and all that stuff, and she's kind of the conflict she's going through in that sense. So that's really it was cool to see that. Um, Namar, the main villain in this character movie, this is absolutely like probably the most badass character in MCU right now. I would say, and obviously he's much different than he was in the comics. Like they completely changed outside of him being um, Prince of or like of the underwater city. Everything else is pretty much different, and obviously his name is the same in a sense too. But um, yeah, they that he was just a fantastic the actor that played him did a fantastic job. He uh the complexity like I've loved Ryan Coogler's interpretation of the villain. So he doesn't he makes the villains a little bit more complex uh than just being like, black and white sense of a villain. And Namar is played by Teno Huerta. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I always kind of screw up the names. But yeah, again, just like the way Killmonger was a little more complex than just, you saw the reasoning of Killmonger the way he was, but obviously there's still a line within good and bad, but it's the line is not so um it's a lot, like I said, it's not a line is a little more blurry than just being okay for sure everything this guy is doing is wrong. It's the like the reasoning, it like you kind of feel for him, like you feel for why he's what he's doing, what he's going through. And the same way with Namar, you kind of feel why he's the way he is and things he's going through. But obviously, there's things that he does in the movie that's like, all right, this guy's the villain. Um, so yeah, this absolutely marvelously done in that sense. Angela Bassett obviously as Ramonda, absolutely a great performance. She won an award for this performance. That tells you alone how good she was, how great she was in this movie. Um, you know, everything with Lupita Nyong'o. She absolutely kills it again as the Nakia. Um, all that involved, like this very well done movie sets up. It'll be intriguing to see what they do going forward with Wakanda 3 or Black Panther 3, and then obviously just in general what Black Panther's role will be, aka Shuri's role will be um, going into Phase 5 and 6. That'll be interesting to see as well. So yeah, that those are my thoughts on Wakanda Forever and why I have that in here as far as my favorite one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, like you said, the length never ever bothered me, and I don't even think I noticed it. I don't even remember how long it was. Everything felt appropriate. Like you said, they handled honoring Chadwick slash T'Challa, um, with respectfully, honorably, tastefully, and was able to develop because again, if you keep in mind that Shuri, the last time we saw Shuri was technically in game, but if you think about the first Black Panther movie that came out in 2018, and that took place in like the MCU, like right after Civil War. It was supposed to be like a few months after Civil War, so it was like 2016 technically. So this movie is like, because even after T'Challa's passing, that was they did another time skip. That was like another year, right? So this movie is like she's basically like almost 10 years older than she was in the first Black Panther movie. So she's not a kid anymore. She's gone through some stuff. She's lost all of her family. She's gone through a lot of character development, and we're able to see the Black Panther now, hopefully going forward, like the type of character that I complained about, that T'Challa was never seen as a very smart character because they didn't depict him that way in the MCU, but he's actually supposed to be one of the smartest characters in comics. So now we have Shuri is going to be that. that type of smart and have the Black Panther abilities. So we'll see how that goes. But I definitely have Black Panther as one of my favorite movies of 2022.
One of my
Um,
favorite things that one of my just not to interrupt you, but like one of my
mhm,
favorite things that they did in here, like that went under not under radar, but it was a kind of just like a one line, one scene thing, which I was kind of like disappointed that they didn't do until now. But when Shuri's talking about, to some, I can't remember who she's talking to, but they're like, "How did you learn all these things?" It's like my big brother taught me.
right, yeah.
And that's so like T'Challa's a fucking genius, man. Like they never
Mhm.
really show that in this entire up till now. It's like, man, that's how do you not show that he's this fucking genius level of intellect, and they don't show it until now. So yeah, that was fun. It's just a one lineup. It's like finally, thank you for for letting everyone know that T'Challa is a genius. And he should have been recognized as a genius from the very beginning when they introduced him in Civil War.
All right, and if you don't mind, I think my last movie works better as the last thing, or rather coming after yours. So if you don't mind doing your last
Oh yeah, that's
movie
fine.
first.
Yeah. So my last movie, I put the Batman as my favorite. To me, like I thought like this, as far as who Batman is as a character, I thought this was like one of the best interpretation, if not the best interpretation of Batman, and everything involved, like him in his early years, kind of being this like like complex, more complex as far as understanding the difference between being Bruce Wayne and Batman, and how he needs to present himself as Bruce Wayne, and how Batman he's learning like what Batman needs to be to Gotham. Um, Obviously, they went with the villain they went with was uh, um, the Riddler, and I thought Paul Dano did a fantastic job. Like at times, it was just really creepy the way he portrayed the character. And I know it was like a mix of different variations of the Riddler, I believe, of NDC, of like different universes and stuff like that. But he does a fantastic job. Obviously, you have um, Colin Farrell. Sorry, I should say Will Ferrell. Not Will
That would have
Ferrell. It
been
would have
interesting.
completely, yeah, but interesting. Colin Farrell as the Penguin is crazy because like when you first see the trailer for this movie, you don't recognize him at all. It's like, oh shit, that's Colin Farrell. Because he's like, and I love the interpretation of that too, because the way they did it, they showed him kind of like as a mob, like an Italian mobster, as opposed to like the way he's normally been portrayed. Like I can't remember the last time he's been portrayed like this, and at least on like even in movies and things like that. Because like the animated, he's not portrayed like this exactly in animated movies. I can't remember of. Um, and then Gotham, like they nailed Gotham, like the way it was is like it's this, the one of the issues I had with like Christopher Nolan's Gotham, it was just pretty much Chicago still. Like he didn't change a lot in the city. Like you still see like, and while I love Chicago, I love the city. I love seeing. It's always cool seeing the city on the big screen and things like that. But like, I wish he had done better with the Gotham, with the way Gotham is supposed to be. This super like seedy city that is just it's so corrupt, like it affects every bit of the city. Like the just this the not only like the nice areas are rough, like in a gloomy, not rough but gloomy, but the worst areas are like worse than you can imagine. Um, so yeah, I just love the way Gotham was. And lastly, I did forget with Batman. I really love the essence. Like I thought he nailed the essence again of Batman. Like I talked about the way they portrayed the ways that Bruce Wayne and he's learning how to be Bruce Wayne and the 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 transition Batman and things like that. But the essence of Batman, like Batman's not just a he's not just an action guy. He's very much method like how to say this. He's very much like a guy that thinks a lot before he reacts. He doesn't just react to everything. He's not just go in and start punching. That he's a punch last guy. Um, and I really like that they showed like the real detective side of him. Like obviously in the comic books, he's known as the greatest detective ever, and I love that they showed that part of him actually doing a lot of um, like police work in a sense, if you will. Like he's trying to look up uh, the things that with him and the games between him and the Riddler, the riddles that the Riddler is giving him to solve and things like that. You see the way he's attacking those, and really, using his knowledge and obviously the tech that he uses too. Like I like that since he's the early in his age, he didn't have like a lot of tech, but he had some cool tech. Like the coolest tech being like the contact lens thing where where he puts a contact lens on and then he can record everything. That's a really cool tech. And obviously he gives that um to Catwoman, played by uh, Zoe Kravitz, who again fantastic in her role. And obviously Zoe Kravitz speaks for herself because she's especially stunning. So yeah, she was great in this too. So yeah, for me, like the Batman, arguably the best Batman in general, and it was up there as far as one of my favorite movies. And that's why I definitely wanted to have it on this list as far as when we talk about like our favorite movies.
Yeah, I enjoyed it pretty much. Have the same thoughts as you. I thought it was great. It was, I wouldn't say a fresh take, but like the one thing that did kind of linger with me with the movie, which is doesn't necessarily diminish anything about it. It's just kind of like an ongoing thing that this is still more of a grounded, realistic version of Batman, which we've already gotten that like with Christopher Nolan. Um, And, it kinda stinks that we're kind of stuck and committed to that, which, I mean, obviously, Batman doesn't have powers, right? So, it's not like he's gotta be flying around and lifting cars with his pinky or anything, but he has villains within his rogues gallery that can do that, and I don't think we're gonna ever see them, and that's kind of
Well,
the point of, like, we'll see them, but they'll be a grounded, realistic version of those characters,
we'll
if at
see.
all.
We'll
Like,
see
I
because
don't know if we'll see, like, a full-on Killer Croc and he be, like he well, I don't want him, like, necessarily like Suicide Squad, but, just more like more of his fantastical, fantasy power-based villains, like Poison Ivy would be a perfect example. Like, how do you do a realistic Poison Ivy if they don't have powers, right? Because she
yeah.
wouldn't have powers. She could just be like a scientist that experiments and mess around with plants and makes a serum and stuff like that, but she wouldn't necessarily control plants or talk to the be connected to the green and things like that. So they would do it, but they would change it. Not that it wouldn't be cool, but it's more of we're not getting that side of Batman, and that's why like I would love for and I don't want to get too much into that now because this is not what we're doing today, but I would love for them to have gone in a different direction but they can't because of the Matthew Reeves the whole deal with it. But
I don't
despite that,
agree with you. I don't agree with you that that's all they're gonna do. That just this movie was like that because the villains that they picked are not like the Riddler doesn't have any of the comics. He doesn't have those powers. And
well, he doesn't
even
have
the
powers.
Penguin.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't
yeah.
have supernatural powers. The Riddler, that's just the character, even in the comics. The Penguin is the same way. He doesn't have any supernatural powers. That's just the same way in the comics. But Christopher Nolan specifically took out any supernatural stuff, like the like with Ra's al Ghul. He has a Lazarus pit, that he can use to regenerate himself. There was nothing about the Lazarus pit. There's no mention about being able to come back from life or death. Um, the Joker, the way he's scarred and stuff is because he falls into this chemical, and his skin isn't white because he paints it white. It's white because of that chemical turns it white. And then Bane. Bane wasn't it's like Bane was just like a super jacked up guy, and the thing that he was wearing was just like a breathing apparatus for him. It wasn't something that put venom into his body. So that Christopher Nolan definitely changed it. I don't think that's what Matt Reeves is necessarily gonna do. Like we'll see what villains he goes with next. For sure, we'll see what happens. But I think he's probably gonna keep the supernatural side more so as opposed to just complete getting rid of any of those type of things. So we'll see. Like that's still up as far as we'll find out what they do when they make the second Batman.
Yo, so as I was saying, my list is Salim's list, and my list is, just to for the sake of being different. That leaves my last movie, and this is where I don't know if it's controversial or not, but um, this is where some movies could have been, but are not. And obviously, we're only picking three. If this was like a top 10 list, some of these other movies that, especially the ones that are making $1 billion in the box office right now, might have made that cut if we were doing a top 10, but we're doing a top three. And like I said, I kind of judge it on movies that I would rather watch. Like if I were presented, like I've already seen these movies, would you like to watch this one again, or would you like to watch that one again? I'm sorry, Avatar 2, I do like you. I think I legitimately like you better than the first movie. I don't think you're a half bad movie at all. I hope you continue to have great success, but I would rather watch Sonic the Hedgehog 2 over Avatar 2, and that's just a personal thing. Salim has no input on this at all. Don't know how he feels, but that's just in general. I'd rather watch Sonic the Hedgehog 2 over watching Nope as well. That was another one that came out this year that a lot of people liked, but I didn't feel so strongly about Nope, even though maybe people passed on Sonic 2 or didn't care for it, or it's for kids or whatever, but I don't care. I enjoyed this movie. I really had a good time. I thought it was fun. I thought it was funny. I really liked the first movie. I can't wait for the third movie. When that happens in another year or two, they've actually churned this one out because the first one came out in 2020. Fun fact, it was the last movie I watched in theaters before the pandemic, Sonic the Hedgehog 1. And then 2 years later, here's Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So hopefully within 2 years, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 will be out. So I'll be pretty excited about that. But um, yeah, I enjoyed this movie with it more than watching Nope. I enjoyed this movie more than watching Avatar 2 and anything else that came out in theaters over Love and Thunder, Thor and Love and Thunder. And I'm trying to think out like Lightyear, we just covered that last week in Moonfall. And anything else, I can't think of anything else that came out this year that I would have liked more. We haven't already discussed like everything everywhere all at once, Black Panther, Batman, Prey, Doctor Strange, and then for me, I rounded out with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. If you're not into Sonic, I get it, but for me, even if I didn't care for the games, for Sonic the Hedgehog games or anything like that, if I wasn't a gamer and I was just watching movies just because they're there, I still think this is a pretty enjoyable movie.
Oh, it was fun. I enjoyed it too. I thought, as far as like, especially with sequels go, it was it, they did a really good job of continuing the storyline. I liked, like, Knuckles when they brought Idris Elba in. Like, he had a lot of deadpan humor in this movie, in a sense, or not a lot, but some deadpan humor. It was done well. I liked it. I enjoyed it for sure. It was a fun movie. I can't say it was a top five. Like I like Nope better. I did like Nope better. I don't know if I liked Avatar better necessarily. Um, compared to this. I think they'll probably be equal tiered to me, if anything. But yeah, it was a fun movie for sure. Any final thoughts overall before we wrap up here?
No, that's about it. Like when I was figuring this out, I was looking at all of the episodes that we had on YouTube just so I can remind myself what we actually watched this year. And the only other things that came to mind as far from movies, well, again, Nope, Avatar, but also we watched Day Shift. Remember that with Jamie Foxx, and
Oh yeah, yeah, that was a
the
fun
uh,
movie too.
the other movie, which 3,000 Years of Longing, which you did not
I didn't
see
watch
or
that.
did
No,
not
I didn't
see.
watch
Yeah.
that.
So that was an okay one, but yeah, like I would definitely still prefer to watch Sonic 2 over either of those. But again, Day Shift's not half bad, and that's on Netflix, and there's plenty of other things on that there are plenty of other movies that came out this year that we didn't see or just didn't put on this list, but they're not half bad. But I Sonic 2's for me.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, that's a wrap for our show today. Appreciate everyone for always tuning in. Obviously, if you missed any one of our shows in the past, please give us a listen. You can find us obviously on the Barroom Network under on YouTube, and then also on uh sorry, what do you call it? On all audio and audio platforms, like for podcasts, as far as podcasts are concerned. So you can catch us on like Apple, uh, Spotify, Podbean, and whatever other um, podcast providers that you tend to want to listen to. And then obviously, please listen to all our other great shows that we have. Mac and Reed, they do a great show. They actually are on right before us, um, for us, but they're on out for us. They have a lot of great conversations on various Chicago related topics, Chicago sports related topics, I should say. So shout out to those guys. Obviously, the Crosstown Crosstalk gentlemen do a lot of great covering both baseball teams, I should say. They do a great job on their draft on tap. Um, it's starting up again just because the draft is coming up and the Bears have the first pick. So tune into them, because if you're not someone like myself will definitely tune in, because I don't know a lot about the NFL draft. It's just way too much to know. I don't get how people can pay attention to that many prospects, because there's like 7 rounds in the NFL of drafts, and there's like even more players than 7 rounds worth of players to know about. So definitely tune into those guys so you really get an understanding. Danny and Neil do a great job with Aldo as well to really cover these different prospects, and especially with obviously the Bears have the first pick, so they're with the in the first round at least. There's so many multiple things that they can do that they'll probably trade down, but in rounds, and then they're gonna probably end up with even more picks, and then in rounds 2, 3, and 4, 5, so forth. Players that they can look at to fill out needs and holes that this Bear squad has. So check them out, and obviously all the other stuff in general. Do a lot of Bears related content. Check them everything out that Borough Mass offer. But yeah, that's everything for tonight from us. But we appreciate again everyone tuning in. So for myself and Carl, we'll see you guys next time.